And welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to Quilts for Miles. In today's video we are going to be talking about UFOs. I'm joining along with Sugary Doo and making 2023 my year of finishing off any UFO that I've got on the go at the moment. So I've decided to download her free project tracker, and as you can see I've actually listed all my current UFOs that I've got stored in containers and stored in bags and just basically half in progress and they need to get finished. So as you can see I've got 16, and my goal for 2023 is to have this list completely finished off. So then in 2024 I can add new projects that I want to start, create a whole new UFO list basically. As you will see as the video goes on, a lot of these I've just collected the fabrics for, and the blocks really aren't quite done, so I need to really get a work on, but I roughly know what I want to do. The other piece of paper that I'm going to use is her quilt projects planner. So in this one, as you can see, I just write the project name and then everything I need to start the project, and then I write some notes and stuff like that on it. This is not completely filled out, this is just the start of filling it all out, but you get the general idea of how I'm going to fill it out. And going back to this one, I still have to tick off where I'm up to on each quilt, and that is just, I'll have to open all the quilt boxes and have a better look, and then I can determine where I'm up to. Like, I know for the hugs and kisses I've got most of my piecing done, and I'm almost up to the assembly of all of the quilts for that one. Like, I know this Halloween quilt here, all I've done was get ready. I've done nothing else with it. It's no piecing, no nothing has been done. I've just collected all the fabrics. But there's some on here like the hexagon cushion that I know it's in there, but I don't actually know at what stage it is at the moment. So I just have to go through and slowly start to tick off all this so I know where I'm basically at. They are the two bits of papers that I'm using to try and keep track in 2023 of what I'm doing and where I'm up to. So when I want to pull out a UFO, all I have to do is go to this piece of paper and know exactly where I'm up to. I'll know whether I'm up to the piecing stage, whether I'm up to the quilting stage, because it's all going to be on here. So in the next week this will be completely filled out, that all I have to do is go to this piece of paper and look at this piece of paper. And then if there's something I need to refresh my memory on, then this is where this piece of paper will come in handy, and it will have all of the details of each specific quilt top. So every last little bit of detail will be kept on this piece of paper, and so between these two bits of paper, all I have to do is have a quick glance and I should be able to start a unfinished project within about 5 minutes of looking it all up and knowing what I've got to do then. So now let's dive into having a look at my UFOs. So I've shown you and I've talked about how I'm going to try and keep organised in 2023 when I'm dealing with all of these UFOs. Now let's have a dive in and have a closer look at what projects I want to finish this year. So in this basket I actually have 3 quilts. I'm classing it as one UFO because they are the same quilt using different fabrics, and the quilts for my two youngest nephews and my youngest niece. And I'm doing the Hugs and Kisses quilt by Leah Day. So this is the book where it's found, and that there is the basic quilt top of what I'm doing. So for all of these I've actually done all of the kisses, and I've done most of the hugs. So one quilt's got all of the hugs done as well. One quilt has got all the hugs bar one done, and the other quilt still needs all of the hugs done. And I've also done 2 out of the 3 hearts as well. So I'll just give you an example. So that's a hug. So all this quilt here will get, all the hugs are in green. The other quilt, the hugs, because the boys are twins, so I need to try and keep them a little bit different where they'll be able to know theirs. So in one of the twin boys will have green as their hugs, and the other will have grey as their hugs. The one that's got the green hugs will then have grey as their kisses, and the one that's got the grey as hugs will have blue as their kisses. So just to try and keep them a little bit separate and they know which is which, that's why I've tried to do it. And that's a kiss, sorry, that's a kiss. So that's this will go in the quilt that's going to have the blue kisses. And then for my niece, I'm just doing more of a rainbow quilt. So she's got different colours for kisses and different colours for all her hugs. Like, I'm just doing it more of a rainbow quilt for her. And these are the hearts. So each quilt gets one of these hearts, and it's in the centre. So I replace one of the kisses with the heart. It's right in the centre of the quilt. And I do these to represent the love my mum has for her grandchildren, because my mum passed away in March of 2018. I made the grandchildren that were born at the time these exact same quilts with these hearts in the middle, and it represents the love that my mum has for her grandchildren. These last three were born after my mum passed away, and these have been on the go for the last about 2 years, and I want to get these finished for them now, and my dad will give them to them when they are finished. So I chose blue for the outside heart because blue was my mum's favourite colour, and then I've just chosen red for the inner heart. So I'm glad that these are almost ready to be a quilt top and to get quilted. I'm hoping to have these done ready for their birthdays. They're in February and March. And as I said, because it's been a long time, this is priority number one, UFO number one, that has to get finished because it's been such a long time on the UFO list. It needs to be finished. They do. So that's UFO number one. And I store all the fabrics in bags. Any UFO I want to work on, all I have to do is pull out the basket, the plastic container that I've got it stored in, and everything is in there basically. So it's all in there, and then once I'm finished the UFO, all this fabric goes back into my stash, and it's emptied and it's ready to get another UFO project put into it. Okay, so now in this container is UFO number 2 and number 3. So, and I say number 2 and number 3 because the UFOs, but I'm only just starting to collect their fabrics for them. So in this bag, I'll just get it out. So in this bag, this year I've collected some Christmas fabric that I would like to do a Christmas quilt, because I've never done a Christmas quilt for us. I've done a few wall hangings, but I've actually never done a Christmas quilt. Because it's always summer here in Australia, we don't want quilts in summer, and we don't want quilts at Christmas time. So I never saw the point in doing a quilt, but now I see the point in, okay, well, it can be decoration. It can go on the back of the couch, it can go on the couch, on the side, on the arm, it can go somewhere in the house. It can even go on a bed. It doesn't mean we have to use one and snuggle underneath it, but it can go out as decoration. So this year I want to start a Christmas quilt. So I've been collecting Christmas fabrics, and you'll see I have two different snow globe fabrics, because we love snow globes and we collect snow globes. We get a snow globe every Christmas. And when I saw these two different prints, I've never seen snow globe fabric before, I got a metre of both. So I have 2 metres to put in a quilt with other fabrics. Yeah, it's not going to make a great big quilt, 2 metres, but it will be a nice lap size, and that's all we need, because we don't need bed quilts. We just need them for decoration, basically. So I collected those 2, and then I just loved these 2 fabrics, and they go together. And they could even go in my snow globe quilt. I don't know, like I don't have any pattern or anything else, any ideas for this quilt. I just have the starting point, which is just some fabrics. And then I've just got a panel, a Christmas panel. So this is going to be just quilted up as is, and it will make a wall hanging for this Christmas. So that's what I've got for UFO number 2. UFO number 3 is my Anne of Green Gables fabric. And for my Anne of Green Gables fabric, I do have the support group pattern in mind by Low Holt, and it's sold by the Fat Quarter Shop. And it's just bras, and it's to support the breast cancer and stuff like that. So I do actually have that one in mind to use these fabrics. I have to still get some coordinating fabrics, some fabrics that match all of this, so I can actually do the quilt top. But it's a start. I know the pattern, and I know half of the fabric that I'm using for this one. And Anne of Green Gables is a movie that I really, really love. So as soon as I saw that they brought out fabric, I knew I actually had to have this fabric and do a quilt for this fabric. My mother-in-law passed away in 2021 with breast cancer, and she fought breast cancer for 18 years before she passed away with it. So I thought, perfect quilt as soon as I saw that they brought it out, because I actually have had someone pass away with breast cancer. And my mum also died of cancer, not breast cancer, but she did die of lung cancer. And I've had 2 people close to me pass away of cancer in the last few years, basically. So I thought perfect of using my favourite movie with this pattern. So that's my plan for UFO number 3. And it shouldn't take me long, because it seems like it's a relatively easy pattern. But yeah, so that's my plans for UFO 2 and 3. They are still very much in the early stages, in the early planning, but they're still as a UFO because I've thought about it, I've started collecting fabric for them, and so they're on the list to try and get finished for this year. Okay, so now we're starting with UFO number 4. Now this is a very rare sign that you'll see one UFO having 2 containers. There's one other UFO that has 2 containers, but that will be explained why later. This one here is for the one UFO. So this UFO is a graduation quilt for my daughter, and yes, she graduated year 12 at the end of last year, so I am still a little bit behind in this quilt, but it was meant to be for her graduation. It is all of the clothing I kept from I don't know, probably from 5 or so, maybe even a little bit older when I decided that, and I had the idea of doing a graduation quilt for her. But true to my style, I started it too late because I couldn't decide on the pattern I wanted to use, and I didn't end up getting it finished. So it's in 2 containers. This top container has a basket that's got some clothing that's been pre-cut. So when I want to sew on this, I just use this basket, get this container out, and get the basket out of the container. This bottom container has all of the clothing that has been stabilised. Yes, I've got more clothing somewhere that isn't stabilised, but this is everything that has been stabilised that I can cut into when I need to. Have a look at this one first. Okay, so that's the pattern I'm using. It's the Ugly Sweater quilt. I'm going to do this quilt as you go, so it will look a little bit different to this, but that's the basic idea of the pattern that I'm going to be using for this. This was a free download. I got it from the Fat Quarter Shop, so you can go to the Fat Quarter Shop and pick this pattern up. That's my background. I'm using ivory. It's an ivory homespun background for the blocks, and then everything else in here is stabilized. Nothing's been cut, as you can see, because you can still see the stabilizer hanging off the edges, but everything is stabilized and ready to be cut. So I've got pajamas, I've got one of her old school uniform before I homeschooled her. That was her skirt, her winter skirt. I've got things that were tops, like t-shirts, pants. I've got old dresses in here, and then in this bag here is where I'm keeping all of the scraps. So anything that isn't big enough for any of these pieces for the actual quilt, I'm keeping in here, because once I've done her quilt, it won't be this year, it might go on my next year's UFO list. I'm actually going to do one for myself with just all of the leftover clothing. So then I also have a quilt and some memories of some clothing that she wore, because I actually do know, looking at all these, what these actually were. Like that was a t-shirt. That was her PE t-shirt from her school. That was a flannelette top. Like, I know what all of this is. So I wouldn't mind something for myself as a memory thing. And in this one here is, as I said, the baskets of everything that's been cut. So when I want to sew on this quilt, all I have to do is open the lid, pull out this basket, and then this basket here sits by my sewing machine. So this has everything in here so far that has been cut, and also some blocks that I've made. Okay, so it's all neatly cut. So see how I've got some, I don't have a lot, but I've got some pieces that are already cut, and I know what all these pieces are, like to what part of the quilt. And I've got some backgrounds already cut. So it makes it easy that when I want to go and get onto this project, I just have to pull out this basket and I can sew quite a few blocks with what I've already got here cut. So I'll show you a couple of blocks that have been made. So that's what a block will look like basically. So it looks like a sweater. And in this block I do know what every single one of these fabrics were like. They were pajamas. That was my daughter's winter skirt. And that was a sleeveless, tank top. That was a tank top. So there's another one. So that's what I'm just doing, just a variety of different clothings that I think go together, and just putting them into the block. I will border with a bit of the the ivory in my background. I will do a border on the outside because it'll be easier to quilt, but then it will be a really thin border when it's actually in the quilt. Just be easier to quilt with something else there. So I'll show you one more. So that is what I've done so far for my daughter's graduation quilt. I've got a few blocks done, like not many, but there are a few, and I do have to get back onto this one, and basically it will get finished in 2023. So UFO number 5 is my Sugary Doo sampler. This has been on the go for a little while as well, but I haven't done any on it for ages. So that's what the sampler looks like. It's all foundation paper pieced, so it does take a little while to get it done. So I'll just show you, because there's no instructions. This is not an instruction book, so this is on the Sugary Doo website, but you need to know how to do foundation paper piecing because there's no instructions on how to foundation paper piece each one. Like, that's how it is, and you need to know how to put that together yourself. You need some basic knowledge on foundation paper piecing for this one. Basically with this one, I keep them in the baskets, and any scrap white I throw in this basket, and then any scrap homespun, which I have to go through my homespun, and I've got a little bit of scrap white here which I need to put in here. My scrap homespun goes in here because basically I want to do do all only homespun and just use all my little scraps, little bits, because a lot of them are little blocks. They can just use little bits for them. So I've done 2 strawberries. I've done a heart, and I've done a mug and a penguin. So that's all the blocks I've done, and I've got some stuff here. But so I'm just using homespun for this, and I'm just slowly doing it and taking my time. The blocks do get bigger as it goes on, like these are only meant to be this small. They are really hard to piece and really hard to press when they're this small. Even as a foundation paper piecing, they are still very hard to press. Like there's a lot of bulk, as you can see in here. So this seam is so hard, like it needs to be pressed open, but it's so hard to keep it open. So I'm actually going to run a bit of glue, washable, the school glue, along here, and then iron it open is what I'm going to do with it. So this is number 5. This is what I plan on, this is what I'm doing on this one. It's a Sugary sampler, and I think this one will not, I don't think this one will be finished until closer towards the end of the year. This is another one that will be done quilt as you go. Most of my quilts will be done quilt as you go, because I find it hard to quilt a really big quilt on a home sewing machine. I just find it gets really hard on my shoulders, and my shoulders get really sore. And I just find quilt as you go is a lot easier for me, and takes the stress and the anxiety away from it and that sort of stuff. And plus I enjoy quilting it one block at a time in smaller projects. It's just less basting, less everything basically. My UFO, number 1, the Hugs and Kisses, won't be quilt as you go. That is going to be as a whole quilt top will get done on the machine, because it is quicker to do the full quilt top than what it is quilt as you go. But this is meant to be a fairly decent sized quilt when it's finished, so it is going to be quilt as you go. But like I won't quilt this on its own, like I'll quilt this quilt in sections. Like it is made up into sections when you put it together, so we'll quilt sections as quilt as you go. So here, just as an example of sections, so this is section 1, so this will all get quilted together, and then that gets quilted because that's section 2, so then I quilt that one separately, and so forth until this quilt is done. So that's what I say, I'm going to quilt this one in sections, not as each block, because it will just make it a little bit easier when it's quilted in sections. So you will be able to see where I've quilted it, but I'm okay with that as well. Okay, and here we have UFO number 6. And in this basket is the clothing that belonged to my mum. This has been on the go since 2019, a year after she passed away. This is a very hard quilt to do, and I can only work on this one little bits at a time. Like I don't even know whether this one will be completely finished this year. So I'm doing hearts. And then I surround the hearts with just a little border. And it is a Carol Doak heart, foundation paper piecing heart I've had for years. So that's what I'm doing with this one, is I'm just doing a bunch of hearts, and I've got some crumb quilts, some crumb like blocks, borders that actually go on the top and bottom. So a thicker one goes on the bottom, and then a thinner one goes on the top. And then say in this row here, the thick one will go on the top and the thinner one will go on the bottom, and then that just offsets the hearts a little bit. So when they're together, they're offset. They're not going to be like this. They're just going to be offset that fraction. And as you can see, I've got a variety of clothing. Everything's calm. This isn't all of it either. There is something. It might be. I don't know. I haven't looked in this for quite a while. But everything's stabilised, and I've got a lot here. As you can see, this basket is so very full. That just just gives you an idea of UFO number 6, basically, and that's my mum's clothing. This is the only one I will give myself permission not to finish in 2023, just because of how hard it is to actually get this one over the line. But it is going to be over the line. If it's not finished this year, this quilt has to get finished next year. Like, we're coming up to my mum's 5th year anniversary, so I would have liked to have had this done by now, but it is very hard. Okay, now here we have UFO number 7, and this is breast cancer fabric, little pieces of like a fat quarter basically. This one is not it's longer than a fat quarter, so it might be not quite half a metre this way, but anyway, it's fairly long. I want to make 2 cushions. That's what I'm thinking, is 2 cushions out of it. Or my other idea is to cut it up into big pieces and just do with this, do like a patchwork wall hanging, just to make these squares or something. So it'll be either 2 cushions or be 1 wall hanging, basically made out of this fabric. That's my plan. For Christmas I did make 2 cushions for my daughter out of this fabric and this fabric, because I did actually have 2 fat quarters of each fabric. I gave her one made out of cushions, and I've kept a fat quarter for myself to make something out of. This fabric here, I had one that was in the black. Instead of pink, it was a black background with the white butterflies. I kept the pink one for myself because my daughter doesn't really like a lot of pink, so I kept this one for myself. And I did, could have been her binding or something in this fabric, I can't quite remember. So that's the plan for this one, for this UFO. And here we have UFO number 8. There's 2 things here. I count them as 1 because they are the last things that my mum finished, and that she pieced, and the tops. And I just basically now have to get through and just get them quilted. So this one here, move that for a minute. This one here is a quilt. So I won't show you what the quilt, because it's a nice size. It's a nice size lap quilt, but you can get an idea of what she's done. So it's just strips, like a rail fence, and squares. And it's really nice. So I just want to get this quilted so we can use it up. The other part of this one is like a table runner. Another thing is I just need to quilt it and then it can get used. So she did all the piecing. And yeah, when she passed away, I found these in her stash, and because when she passed away, I got all of her sewing supplies, and so we found these in her sewing supplies. So I brought them home, and once again, 5 years on almost, I still haven't got these quilted. But it's on the list for this year. So that's UFO number 8, and that's why I classed them as 1, because they're to do with Mum. They're her last 2 projects. You know, they're separate, and yes, you can separate them and class them as 2 UFOs, but I'd rather just do it as 1. And when I look at my list and I see Mum's last quilt, these are the 2 that I'm talking about, and these are the 2 that get crossed off and get done when I want to do that UFO. Basically, these are the 2 that will get crossed off. Okay, UFO number 9, and this is it. This is my hexagon block. So this is all I've done. Yes, I'm either going to turn this into a cushion or it will be turned into a wall hanging. And once I've opened the bag, I can see I've got other bits. So I've probably got enough here to do another one. So I can make 2 cushions, or make a wall hanging where there's one on top and one on bottom, so to speak. So it's a length wall hanging or something anyway. I'll have a think about this one because I'm not 100% sure on what I want to do, but this is basically UFO number 9 is my hexagon block that would be turned into either a cushion or a wall hanging boutique. Okay, so in this container is UFO number 10. So this is going to be Letters to Santa. So basically in this one, I've just collected all my reds and green homespun. I'm using all homespun for this fabric, for this quilt and my white background. So I've basically put in all my red and green that I want to use for this quilt. And I've also printed off the patterns that I needed. So that's the rough layout. I think I've done a different layout. So they're the words I want to use for my one. So I'm changing some of what Moda used and I'm going to put my own words in it. So you basically choose from this list and gives you an idea there of where to put stuff. So I transferred Noel and I'll put another four-letter word in, so I put star in there. And I just looked on this list, decided what I want to use for my own quilt, and that's what I've done. I changed some words, I didn't change all. Like I changed cider and pie, because here in Australia we don't really drink cider and we don't really eat pie at Christmas time. So I changed them for Carol and Elf. I also changed mitten because it's not cold here, so we don't wear mittens. It's got nothing to do with our country. So I changed it to reef because we put a lot of reefs on our front doors and stuff like that. I planned this all out and I know where I'm going with it. I have to style it. And I'm going to use the Sugary Do alphabet letters because I already have that. So that's what I've got planned for this one. And this will be my second Christmas quilt for 2023 that I want to get finished and have it just for display basically. Okay, so now we're up to UFO number 11, and this is my daughter's dog quilt. So in here, in this bucket, I've got a variety of different dog fabrics. Well, not a variety, I've started collecting some dog fabrics. So this one, and I've got, oh, that's the rest of that panel, that's a panel, that's the rest of it there, and I've got this panel here. So this is going to make my daughter's dog quilt. So my daughter loves dogs, and back when she was about, I don't know, probably 7 or 8, I did make her a dog quilt with dog fabric, not these ones, but dog fabrics in the middle of a star. And I used homespun fabrics. I did Quilt As You Go, not too good because it would have been one of my first Quilt As You Goes, so it's starting to fall apart and I've got to fix it. So it's not one that she can use. So I thought, okay, I'm going to redo another dog quilt for her, but instead of doing stars, I'm going to do homes. I call it the doghouse. So I'm going to put different dogs in the window, like a white tonal fabric here on the doors, and then probably the house will all be a homespun. So that's what I thought I would do for this one. So I think it would be really nice when it's all finished and all the little dogs looking out as if they're looking out the window. Okay, so here we have UFO number 12, and it's the Brick House scrap quilt from Fat Quarter Shop. It's their 2022 free pattern, and the idea of this one is to use any of your scraps from 2022 and make them into a brick house. make them into a house. So all these scraps that I've used aren't all from 2022, because I've got so many scraps. I've just decided to use whatever I have and whatever I like and whatever I want, basically. I have released their 2023 scrap quilt, but before I start the 2023, I actually want to finish this one first. So I'm doing 2 of these. One is going to be sold on our eBay shop, and one is going to be for us. So that's the layout. The one I do for the eBay shop will have 16 blocks. It will be this exact same layout. It will be very similar to this anyway. The one I do for us, I want to probably do 1 extra block. So 1 extra row across and 1 extra row going down, because I want to make it a little bit wider and a little bit longer than what it already is, and then that brings it to a very decent size quilt. So I've done a lot more than these 4. I've done probably enough blocks for 1 quilt or 1 and a bit quilts, but I'm just going to keep going. And so I've done all the blocks for both quilts, and then I'm going to split them. So the blocks then for us will go in a pile and get put back in the container, ready to quilt when I'm ready. And then the one for the eBay shop will go back where I've got all my eBay stuff, and it will eventually be put as a quilt top that will then go on eBay. And as you can see, I just use any fabric. My only goal for these is to say I not have these 2 reds touching. So I don't want this red here over here, or I don't want 2 reds like these 2 here. So that's my only goal for this project, is just to really not have the same colour touching. I also don't want 2 fabrics the same, so I won't repeat anything in any of these in 1 block. They get repeated in a different block, like this got repeated in 2 different blocks, but I won't repeat something within the same block. There's another one, and there's the 4th one I've done. So as you can see, I'm even putting novelty printing. I'm putting everything in. Basically, whatever I feel like it, whatever I like is all going in. So there's UFO quilt number 12. Okay, so UFO number 13 is my daughter's Halloween quilt. This one hasn't been started. I have just collected the fabric for it. For this quilt, I plan on doing this summer moon. That's what the book looks like. As a better quilt. So the quilt finishes at 78 by 70, and I plan on using a black where the white is, where they've got their white background. I'm going to use a black background, and all their prints will be all of the Halloween fabric I've collected for her. And here in this basket are all of the fabrics I plan on using for it. You will notice that I don't have anything that has got a strong black in it, so it's nothing that's a really black background, nothing that will blend into my black background fabric basically. So there's always going to be black in everything, but these would stand out because I've got the pink, they've got the green in it. I've got ghosts, I've got cats, I've got pumpkin somewhere in here, polka dots in here, an orangey colour pumpkin, and some cat skeletons, more words on orange, more ghosts, stripes. So I have it all. And then this is some pumpkins on orange. So I've got a variety of different fabrics, and if I feel like I need more, then I will collect more, but I think this will keep me going, and it should be enough for the quilt. I'm hoping it will be enough variety. Like, I've got a lot. A few years ago it was done as a monthly program, a block of the month basically, and then the author, once that was finished, put it into this book, and it turned out to be a really nice book. The goal for this UFO is to have this finished by this year's Halloween for my daughter to use it. Okay, so here is UFO number 14. It's a friendship sampler by Leah Day. This was a block of the month program, and you paid for the patterns. They're still available on her website, so if you go to leahday.com you'll find her website, all the patterns stored in here. And she does go into a lot of detail for the patterns, and she also has videos on her YouTube channel on how to piece them, and also a video on how she quilted them. So that's the first block, and as you can see they are fairly, the big block sizes, they're big. And I'm using a green thread because green's my favourite colour, and I want to see a bit of the quilting, especially on this black. I think it will break up this black a fair bit, so I want to see a bit of the quilting, so I'm using green thread. And I'm going to use different shades of green thread. It won't be this same green thread all the time, it's going to be different shades of green thread. Well, is block number 2, and I've made 2 of them. So I need 2 per block for a king size quilt. They're fairly big, and I just use any scraps that I want to use at the time. Okay, UFO number 15 is a panel, and it is in the theme of my fabric you saw a few quilts ago, Anne of Green Gables. When I saw this panel, once again, because Anne of Green Gables is my favourite movie, I had to have it. I don't plan on doing anything else with this except for cutting it out, backing and batting and quilting it. Last but not least, UFO number 16 is my daughter's Halloween wall hanging, or 2, however many I can get. So this is some patterns I've chosen. So I've chosen the back crew. It's from the Fat Quarter Shop, and it is a free pattern. I've chosen the Mystery Bats and Boos. It's also a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. So that's how that one looks when it's finished. And I've also chosen Boo Crew. It's also a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. This was done last year at some point. These other ones are a few years old. I've kept anything that's a dark background. So I kept all the dark prints out. And these are the ones I'm going to hopefully try and make these 3 wall hangings out of. And hopefully try and get these wall hangings finished before Halloween this year. If not, they'll be finished this year, ready for Halloween in 2024. So that's the plan for UFO number 16. So I hope you enjoyed going through all my UFO boxes and seeing what UFO projects I have and what UFO projects are on my 2023 list to finish. So I hope you'll join in this challenge, and if you'd like to, go sign up at the Sugary Do website, and let's all tackle and finish all our UFOs together in 2023 and get crates and baskets empty so we can start some new projects and have some more fun in 2024. Please leave a comment below and tell me how many UFOs you would like to finish in 2023, or how many do you have on your list, whether you want to complete them all or whether you only want to complete one. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to subscribe to my channel, and until my next video, God bless and see you next time.